Have you ever felt like you're walking on a tightrope every single day, afraid that one wrong word, one tiny misstep will trigger a storm? That's the reality of living with a narcissistic husband. It's exhausting, it's lonely, and yet you somehow keep going, hoping for the person you once knew to return. Living with a narcissist isn't just a challenge, it's a relentless emotional roller coaster that steals your sense of stability. Imagine waking up every morning unsure of whether you will be met with warmth, indifference, or rage. One moment, he may shower you with compliments, smiles, or attention that feels intoxicating, and the next, it's cold silence, criticism, or manipulation that leaves you doubting your worth. You start questioning your memory, your feelings, even your own reality, and this isn't occasional, it's the rhythm of your life. You learn to tiptoe around moods, to soften your opinions, to shrink parts of yourself to avoid conflict. It feels like walking on eggshells, but it's more than that. Your emotions are no longer your own. They're a reflection of his reactions, his approval, his fleeting affection. You find yourself measuring your every action against an invisible scale that only he controls. Your voice, your needs, your dreams slowly fade because survival becomes the main priority. And yet, there's a cruel paradox, those rare moments of warmth, of charm, of that familiar love you fell for, they hook you back in, making the chaos addictive. You're trapped in cycles of hope and despair, love and fear, craving validation that is never consistent. It's a form of emotional captivity that no one talks about enough, and yet millions endure it silently. If you felt drained, invisible, or terrified of your own marriage, this is your story being reflected back. Recognizing this pattern is the first painful but essential step toward reclaiming your autonomy, your voice, and ultimately your freedom. Have you ever felt invisible in a room full of people? Imagine feeling that way every single day in your own home with the person who promised to love and protect you. That is what living with a narcissistic husband often feels like, utter isolation, even when you're not physically alone. A narcissist has a subtle, almost invisible way of cutting you off from the world. Friends and family who might offer support can suddenly feel distant because he questions your judgment, manipulates conversations, or subtly convinces you that no one truly understands the real situation. You begin to doubt your own instincts, wondering if you're overreacting, being too sensitive, or imagining the pain. This is not weakness. This is survival in a home where emotional abuse has become the norm. You may find yourself avoiding calls or visits from loved ones, not because you don't care, but because you fear his reaction. You start to internalize the shame, carrying it as if it were your own fault. And every time you reach out for connection, he may dismiss it, mock it, or belittle your need for support. Slowly, your social world shrinks, leaving you isolated, dependent, and exhausted. Isolation isn't just about being physically alone. It's about the relentless feeling that your inner life is invisible, invalidated, and unworthy. You long for someone to see you, to hear the truth of your experience, but the narcissist has trained you to silence your own voice. You begin to measure reality through his approval or his anger rather than trusting your own heart. This is where the heartbreak deepens. It's lonely to live in a home where love feels conditional, where your existence is constantly negotiated, where your humanity is questioned in subtle, insidious ways. And yet the human spirit is remarkably resilient. Recognizing this isolation is the first step toward reclaiming connection, not just with others, but with yourself. Have you ever said something that felt true, only to have someone look at you like you're imagining things? That's the insidious nature of living with a narcissistic husband. Every word you speak, every memory you hold can be twisted against you until you question your very sanity. Gaslighting is not a one-time event. It's a constant, invisible weapon. It's the quiet manipulation that makes you doubt your instincts, your memories, your feelings. You're overreacting, he might say, or that never happened, leaving you scrambling for certainty. Slowly, your sense of reality begins to crumble. You start apologizing for thoughts you didn't even realize were wrong just to avoid conflict. You second-guess your decisions, your perceptions, your entire self. This relentless questioning of your reality erodes confidence. You stop trusting your judgment, your emotions, even your voice. What was once simple, a memory, a decision, a feeling, becomes a minefield. The emotional weight is exhausting, leaving you constantly anxious and on edge. You may even find yourself making mental lists, rehearsing every word, every action, just to avoid being accused of wrongdoing. And yet, despite this emotional assault, you cling to the hope that if you try harder, behave better, or change more, the love you long for will return. That hope keeps you trapped in a cycle where self-doubt is the leash and his approval is the carrot just out of reach. The heartbreak isn't just in being manipulated. It's in losing touch with your own truth. It's realizing that the person you trusted to be your partner has weaponized your mind, making you question the very essence of who you are. But here's the truth that starts to break the cycle. Awareness is power. Recognizing gaslighting for what it is, the deliberate erosion of your reality, is the first step toward reclaiming your confidence, your voice, and your sense of self. Have you ever felt like nothing you do is ever enough? That no matter how hard you try, it's never appreciated. Living with a narcissistic husband often means existing in a constant loop of criticism, where your worth is measured by his ever-shifting standards. In a narcissistic marriage, compliments are rare, fleeting, or manipulative, while criticism is relentless. You clean, cook, support, and nurture, yet each effort seems invisible, or worse, becomes ammunition. Every mistake is magnified, every success downplayed, every flaw cataloged. Slowly, you internalize the message you are never enough and you will never meet the impossible standards set before you. This isn't just casual complaining, it's a systematic evaluation of who you are. Even small disagreements are turned into evidence that you are flawed, unworthy, or inadequate. You start to walk on eggshells, censoring your words, your opinions, even your feelings, for fear of triggering the next round of verbal attacks or subtle shaming. Over time, this erodes your self-esteem, leaving a hollow feeling that you are only as valuable as the approval he chooses to give. The most painful part is the occasional reset of affection, the short bursts of praise, charm, or love that seem to say, I still care. These moments create a dangerous cycle, luring you back into hope, masking the ongoing pattern of criticism and making it harder to break free. The emotional whiplash keeps you engaged, hoping that the next moment of warmth will be permanent. But here's the truth you deserve: consistent respect, validation, and kindness. You don't need to earn your right to be treated with love. Recognizing the pattern of criticism and devaluation is empowering. It allows you to separate your self-worth from his approval, to see the relationship for what it is, and to begin the difficult and necessary journey toward reclaiming your dignity. Have you ever felt like your emotions are being used against you? That the very heart that loves deeply is being held hostage? Living with a narcissistic husband often means navigating a world where your feelings are not your own. They are tools for his control. Emotional manipulation is subtle. It's insidious and exhausting. It can take the form of guilt, tripping, silent treatment, exaggerated reactions, or playing the victim to make you feel responsible for his behavior. Every emotional response you have is scrutinized, challenged, or weaponized. You may find yourself apologizing constantly, not for something you did, but for existing, for having needs, for wanting respect. The goal of this manipulation is simple control. By destabilizing your emotions, he ensures that your attention, energy, and decisions revolve around him. You start questioning your own instincts, wondering if your anger is justified, if your sadness is too much, if your needs are unreasonable. You become hyper-aware, walking on eggshells to avoid triggers that could provoke his emotional games. And even when you succeed, the relief is temporary because the cycle inevitably continues. This constant emotional push and pull is exhausting. It chips away at your confidence, your joy, and your ability to trust your own feelings. You may feel trapped, like no matter how hard you try, you cannot win, cannot find peace, cannot reclaim your emotional space. And the cruel irony, narcissists often disguise manipulation as love, care, or concern, making you doubt your judgment and question whether you are the problem. But here's the truth. Recognizing emotional manipulation is the first step to taking back control. You have the right to your feelings, to boundaries, and to a life where your emotional reality is respected, not weaponized. The moment you acknowledge that his control tactics are not reflections of your worth, you start reclaiming the power that has always been yours. Have you ever looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back? Living with a narcissistic husband can slowly erode not just your confidence, but the very essence of who you are. In a narcissistic marriage, your sense of self becomes secondary to his needs, whims, and approval. Over time, you may find yourself suppressing your desires, minimizing your accomplishments, and silencing your opinions just to avoid conflict or criticism. Your identity, once vibrant and strong, begins to feel fragile, like a shadow of who you truly are. The impact on self-esteem is profound. Small victories no longer feel celebratory because they are often ignored, belittled, or even twisted into evidence of inadequacy. Compliments feel rare and suspect, leaving you questioning whether you are exaggerating your own worth, and the internal dialogue begins to shift. Instead of "I am enough," it becomes "Am I really?" This constant self-doubt can spill over into all aspects of life, work, friendships, and future aspirations, leaving you feeling trapped and diminished. Yet, perhaps the most insidious effect is the gradual detachment from your own identity. You start measuring yourself by his expectations, adjusting your behaviors to match his moods, and hiding aspects of your personality that once brought you joy. The person you were, the one who laughed freely, pursued dreams, and trusted her instincts can feel almost foreign. The heartbreak is real. It's the sense of losing yourself in a relationship that promised love and partnership. But here's the flicker of hope. Reclaiming your self-esteem and identity begins with awareness, by naming the ways he diminishes you, by recognizing that your worth is not defined by his approval. You can start rebuilding the foundation of your true self. Slowly, intentionally, and courageously, you can reconnect with the person you were always meant to be, the person who deserves love, respect, and freedom. Have you ever felt trapped in a life that wasn't entirely yours to live? Living with a narcissistic husband often means that your choices, financial, personal, or even professional, are subtly or overtly controlled, leaving you powerless and dependent. Narcissists often use money, resources, or life decisions as tools to maintain dominance. You may find yourself asking for permission to spend money, make plans, or pursue your goals. Your ambitions might be dismissed as unnecessary or selfish, and sometimes even your basic needs are questioned or minimized. Every decision becomes a negotiation, a test, or a battlefield. This form of manipulation doesn't just impact your finances, it infiltrates your sense of agency. You begin to doubt your ability to make sound decisions, to trust your judgment, or even to envision a future without his approval. The constant subtle undermining, offering advice only to belittle, questioning your instincts, or redirecting control keeps you reliant on him. Even when it's emotionally and mentally damaging, the heartbreak is in the stolen autonomy. You may realize that your dreams, your plans, and your very independence have been quietly eroded, replaced with a life shaped by someone else's whims. What's worse, when you attempt to assert yourself, it's often met with anger, guilt, or emotional punishment, reinforcing the cycle of control. But here's the truth: no one has the right to control your life, your finances, or your decisions. Awareness is the first act of reclaiming your power. By identifying the ways your independence has been restricted, you can begin creating boundaries, rebuilding confidence in your judgment, and slowly regaining control over your life. You deserve to make decisions that reflect your dreams, your values, and your authentic self without fear, without manipulation, without compromise. Have you ever felt your body and mind betraying you, as if the constant stress of surviving someone else's chaos is consuming you from the inside out? Living with a narcissistic husband doesn't just hurt emotionally, it takes a profound toll on your mental and physical health. The relentless cycles of criticism, manipulation, and emotional unpredictability create a chronic state of stress. Anxiety creeps in, sometimes subtly, sometimes overwhelming. As you anticipate the next conflict, the next judgment, the next emotional storm, sleep becomes elusive, appetite may falter, and even simple concentration can feel impossible. Your body begins to carry the weight of your experiences, muscle tension, headaches, digestive issues, or a constant sense of fatigue. Mental health struggles are just as real. Feelings of depression, self-doubt, and hopelessness can take root when your sense of self is consistently devalued. You may feel trapped in a cycle where happiness feels foreign, where joy is fleeting, and where moments of peace are constantly interrupted by the unpredictable behavior of your spouse. Emotional exhaustion becomes your default state, and the person you once were, vibrant, confident, hopeful, feels distant, almost unreachable. The heartbreak deepens because these effects aren't always visible to the outside world. Friends, family, even colleagues may not fully understand the toll, leaving you feeling even more isolated. And yet, the body and mind are speaking truths that cannot be ignored. They are signaling that this environment is unsafe for your well-being. But here's the empowering reality. Recognizing the impact on your health is the first step toward healing. By acknowledging the physical and mental toll, you validate your experience and open the door to self-care, support, and recovery. You deserve a life where your body and mind are nurtured, not depleted, a life where stress and fear no longer dictate your existence, and where your health is respected as a priority. Have you ever loved someone so deeply only to realize that the love you give is never fully returned? Living with a narcissistic husband often means existing in a relationship where genuine love and respect are rare commodities, leaving your heart constantly longing, yet chronically unfulfilled. In a narcissistic marriage, love is conditional, transactional, and often used as a tool for control. Affection may be given when it serves as ego and withdrawn when you dare to assert yourself, express your needs, or make independent choices. Respect is fleeting, and true emotional intimacy feels almost impossible to attain. You begin to crave moments of connection, holding on to the hope that this is the person who can love you fully, even as patterns of neglect, manipulation, and dismissal continue. This struggle can leave deep emotional scars. You may feel unworthy of unconditional love, doubting whether it exists for you at all. The longing for validation and affection becomes a constant undercurrent, shaping your expectations and often keeping you trapped in cycles of hope and disappointment. You may even internalize the false narrative that the problem lies within you, that your needs are too much, or that your heart is asking for something impossible. The heartbreak is compounded because love, the very thing that should feel safe, nurturing, and uplifting, becomes a source of anxiety, fear, and frustration. Your deepest desire for a partner who sees you, honors you, and respects your humanity remains unmet, leaving a painful void that can feel impossible to fill. But here's the empowering truth: true love and respect are not earned through compliance or silence. They're given freely, mutually, and consistently. Recognizing that your marriage falls short of these essential needs is not failure, it's clarity. By acknowledging this painful reality, you open the door to seeking relationships, boundaries, and environments where your heart is valued, your voice is heard, and your dignity is honored. You deserve love that uplifts, respects, and nourishes your soul. Have you ever realized that the most radical act of love isn't giving yourself to someone else, it's giving yourself back to yourself? Living with a narcissistic husband may have stripped away your confidence, your joy, and your sense of self, but it can never take your power unless you let it. This is the reality that many find hardest to face: the choice to reclaim your life, your voice, and your freedom. Walking away or setting firm boundaries is terrifying. It's filled with uncertainty, guilt, and fear of the unknown. Yet, the courage to prioritize your own well-being is the most liberating and transformative act you can take. It's about saying, I am worthy of respect, love, and peace. My life is mine, and I refuse to live in fear or invisibility any longer. Reclaiming your life begins with self-compassion. It's allowing yourself to grieve the person you thought he was, the marriage you imagined, and the dreams that were delayed or diminished. It's recognizing that the pain you've endured is real, valid, and not your fault. Each step you take towards self-love and independence is a declaration that your happiness is no longer negotiable. Freedom is not just physical, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's the ability to trust your instincts, honor your feelings, and rebuild your identity on your own terms. It's choosing relationships, environments, and decisions that uplift rather than diminish you. It's remembering that your heart, your mind, and your life are yours, and you get to protect them fiercely. And here's the final truthy: you are stronger than you realize. The journey through heartbreak, manipulation, and control does not define your limits. It reveals your resilience. By facing these painful realities, you reclaim your narrative, your dignity, and your power. You are worthy of love that feels safe, joy that feels unshakable, and a life that feels authentically yours. You survived the storm. Now it's time to step into the sunlight of your own freedom.